and Salvador and Saroha. Make sure to change the button on the bottom to say all panelists and attendees so that other people can see what it is you're saying. Okay, hi Allie. Hope everyone's having a great day and staying safe. So this is the last class of practical data science, and today we're going to be talking all about your resume, networking, and interviewing tips. This is something that I get really excited about. It really is an opportunity to market yourself when you're looking for a new position. And so we'll be talking about building out your data science portfolio, your resume, the community, what you might want to self-study, and we'll talk a little bit about interviewing best practices, right? So for your project portfolio, you've obviously already started because we created that interactive app and you created a GitHub account, so you may want to bring that further or create a new project for your portfolio, but that becomes, this link to GitHub is something you're going to put on your resume. You can put it on your LinkedIn. You're going to show it, if you have anything on there, you'll be showing it to prospective employers. Employers are looking to see that you have a GitHub link on your resume. If you were going to start a new project, it's really easy to get overwhelmed because there are so many public data sets out there. Here's a link to a conversation I had on LinkedIn, probably a year ago now, that was just like, hey, what's your favorite open source data set for projects, right? So there's some good suggestions in there. And then if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, on Kaggle, there is an IBM is a company, data set on their employee attrition. And so there, you have a nice cleaned data set, and it's a relevant business use case if you wanted to build a logistic regression model to determine who was likely to leave the company and who was likely to stay, right? So that's definitely something that, after this course, you're able to go grab that data set, do an analysis. You can look at the other Kaggle kernels, come up with something and put it on your GitHub. Okay. Right, so we've been talking about putting your projects up on GitHub. You could also write about your analysis and create a blog post and put it on Medium. Medium is medium.com, and they'll socialize it and then share it on your social media channels so that other people can see it and see that you're contributing to the community. And it is so scary to press send if you write your own blog article for the first time and then post it on social media, but it is okay, right? That's a fantastic way to put yourself out there and make yourself a part of the community. Of course, add, and that becomes part of your portfolio. And I also find that projects that I write blog articles about, I retain the information better. So then when somebody asks me about it in an interview, I really remember it, or I can just go read the blog article the night before and now I'm refreshed, right? I have all my notes. I know exactly where they are. They're on my blog on the internet. And you can also link to Medium from your LinkedIn profile, or you can publish articles on LinkedIn. So all of this stuff is like interconnected. Like you can write code, put it up on GitHub, write a Medium article about the same project, post the Medium article on LinkedIn, and like also add that blog article, copy and paste it as a LinkedIn article so that other people can still find it later. Like you can repurpose a lot of this content. So other areas for potentially building out your portfolio might be further building out the interactive Shiny app that we started in this class and share with your future employers. If you were looking for a class that is really deep into Shiny, I'll have to look it up, but I have a Shiny course recommendation, which is the course that I used to build the Shiny app that is on my website. And I even have our Shiny web applications. Okay. Sorry about that. Where did the chat go? So this is the our Shiny course that I used to build the app on my site, and that's a absolutely fantastic course. You could also use multiple modeling techniques on a data set and compare the results and write a presentation about it. And then you'll have a presentation ready to go if you're asked to present in an interview. Also, too, you want to be thinking about, like, if you do this analysis, what are the hypothetical recommendations that you might make based on the analysis? Like, really force yourself to say, like, okay, if it was me and I was, if this was my company and I was seeing this data, what changes would I make? What changes would I suggest to the business? Because, you know, when you say those things in an interview, like, that's the type of insight that companies are looking for, right? So now we're going to get in and talk a little bit about your resumes where you're going to be putting this information. And that, crap, I think I might have given the code with a 20% off sale, and I'm not sure. Okay, it doesn't, okay, yeah, the coupon you entered is expired or invalid. If anyone's interested in this course, let me know. I have a coupon that does work. So I have a 15% off coupon that does work. But anyways, your resume. Okay, so this is, I spent a lot of time reviewing other people's resumes. And, you know, in terms of putting personal projects on your resumes, some of the things that I'd see were, you know, this person chose the NHANES data set to do a analysis, and she's trying to position it on her resume. And the way that I updated this was saying, like, okay, well, NHANES just stands for, it's a national health survey. We always want to assume that the person who's going to get our resume first might be HR. They might have no idea what NHANES is. Somebody who is a data science manager also might not everyone is up on sort of the different toy data sets that people are using. So, you know, you want people to be able to see your resume and be able to read it, right? And then also too, this extracted actionable insights through analysis is really vague. You know, you have to mention an actual insight, and it doesn't need to be crazy, but it does need to be a real result, a tangible result. It can't be vague. Right. So our goals when it comes to resumes is that it's readable by ATS. We want it to be as keyword rich as possible. The top half of your resume is obviously the most important, especially if somebody's only going to if somebody's only going to, look at your resume for 6 to 30 seconds, that top half of your resume has to really make an impact. And that's why I suggest a tagline instead of an objective or a summary. An objective is typically like, why you're looking to get into data science. And, from a hiring manager's perspective, it's like, of course, we know you're looking to get into data science. You applied to an open data science role. And the summary can often be like, 4 or 5 lines of dense text. And again, it doesn't draw the eye. It doesn't make somebody say like, ooh, I have to read this. And like a tagline, a 1-2 punch that grabs somebody's attention is going to be more effective. Every single bullet on your resume needs to start with an action verb and end with a result. And any unrelated experience can go. So I have been working now for 12 years and have my own business. Like, I did 10 years in corporate as a data scientist, and my resume finally just moved to 2 pages, right? And so I had probably 5 or 6 different roles, and they were all on 1 page because all of the tasks that I no longer wanted to do or weren't relevant for the job I wanted, right? Not the job I had, the job I wanted. Everything that wasn't relevant to that could go. And so everything on my resume, my whole 1 page ended up being, mostly machine learning projects across different industries. And, the fact that I had spent 2 years setting up Adobe Analytics tagging, like I'm not talking about that on my resume because I don't want to do that. Just like I saw somebody else's resume the other day, they asked me for some feedback and they said, available 24/7. And I was like, take that off. You don't tell people that you're available 24/7. That's not the life you want to live. Like, stop. Right. And so when we're thinking about the different things that we're going to put into our resume, we want to really think about those transferable skills that we're able to add there, right? Because maybe you don't have, right? So you can do a modeling project and put it on your portfolio. But you may not have modeling in industry, right? So then it becomes, well, what are the transferable skills that I can really highlight to help myself land a job in data science if I don't have any hands-on experience in industry, right? And so you want to think about your history that you do have and think about the times where you anticipated potential problems and maybe proactively mitigated those. Times where you identified root causes, like really dug in deep and, found the root cause of an issue. Because as a data scientist, when we have data coming through the pipeline and things don't look right, we're going to have to really stop and dig right in and be detail oriented. Another one is working cross-functionally. So even if you haven't worked as a data scientist, if you have had to work cross-functionally supporting multiple teams, that is a relevant experience because that is something that you will have to do as a data scientist. Presenting your work to others, even better if it's senior leadership. So if you've had to create presentations, deliver them through speaking, all of that is relevant information that is transferable to data science because this is all part of the role. Again, improving processes, even if it wasn't a data process, like you want to show that you can optimize processes, identify problems, identify root causes, work cross-functionally. Mentoring others is something that's fantastic to call out. But most importantly, do not put a soft skills section on your resume because you can't just say like hard worker. And it's like, maybe you are, maybe you're not. You didn't show me anything. Right. But you want to be able to get these things across carefully using your bullets and taglines. So this is my resume from a couple years ago. And you'll see my tagline is a data science leader with demonstrated success delivering innovative and actionable machine learning solutions, partnering cross-functionally, and presenting to all levels of leadership. So that's what I've got. I put my tagline, Then I put my skills. So these are the different tools and packages that I use. I suggest you do the same. If you have, if you're younger than me, your education will probably go up at the top. If you've been working for 5 or more years, then your professional experience becomes more relevant than the education, right? And so you'll notice that all of my bullets start with a verb. So identified, delivered, worked, contributed, owner. That should probably be owned, but created, delivered, built, developed. And so, you try and vary them. And then, this one right here, I always think about because, I built neural network models to forecast hourly electric load. And in the beginning, that was the end of that bullet. And then, I looked at it again and I said, well, where's the result? And there was no result. So I added that the model output was imperative during extreme weather. It was used for capacity planning decisions, right? And so people always say, try and, get a result that is related to money, which is like really easy advice to give, but a lot of people don't have that, right? Like it doesn't need to be that you increased sales by 10% or you brought in $100,000 for the business, right? You want to be really strategic about, you have to show a result, but the result does not need to be monetary. Yeah, so here it's stakeholders built campaigns to help better nurture their customer relationships with the information I provided. That is a result. This information drove campaign creation. Implementing best practices across the organization, reduced analysis time. So this was something that I helped automate. And so I'm reducing the number of man hours, right? That's value. It's value without being, it is directly related to monetary because you could figure out how much money we're saving if I save 4 hours per analyst analyzing test results, right? So we could attach money to that, but this is again proactively identifying interactions between different tests. So just wanted to show you that there's a lot of stuff on there they are results. They are valuable results in the business, but they are not necessarily a sales goal, right? So Laura, I think that you should put learning SQL. I don't think that you should say that you have a command of SQL, say that you've been studying SQL and that, even in your cover letter, that's a good place to put it, currently learning SQL, look forward to the whiteboard, to showing my new skills off during the interview and see how you do, This is the cover letter that I use. It has it does really well for a number of reasons. It's very keyword rich. Because what I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting the actual requirements of the job. So you read the job description and it says we want a graduate degree and 3 to 5 years experience, hands-on experience with machine learning, blah, 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 blah. And of course, this was a position that I was applying to, but you'll find a bunch of positions that are the ones that you're going to apply to, and you're going to put the requirements on the left and then your qualifications on the right. So they say they can code independently in SQL, expert in developing and implementing predictive analytics solutions, and I can say extensive data wrangling experience with SQL, model building in R, and currently learning Python. But so basically what they want why I'm that person. It's, you know, the easiest cover letter there is. It only takes a couple minutes to update for each one because most of the jobs are asking for very similar things. And so, yeah, I just literally copy and paste their exact verbiage and then write about why I'm that person on the very next slide. Hi, Francisco. I don't recommend any certifications. I don't think that certifications are necessarily what gets a job. It is a strong marketing packet between your cover letter, your resume. It's answering the questions well when you talk on a phone screen, and it's having the knowledge. A certification doesn't actually mean much. No, there's no R certification that somebody would look at your resume and say, oh, wow, they took that course. And you can take courses until the cows come home, right? What you want to do is you want to snazzy up your resume, your cover letter, you want to apply. And then if you don't hear back from anyone, that's going to give you some information that like you're not hitting the market well. It's either a problem with your resume or with the skills on there, but most likely it's how you're wording your resume, because if you're picking jobs that you believe you have those skills, you're articulating that you have those skills, and nobody even wants to have a conversation with you, then the problem's probably your resume, right? And then you go in and you go to these in-house, you know, after the phone screen, you go in the office and they're gonna take you through a tech screen. And so you'll see, like, if you fail the coding on the whiteboard, well, then the answer is going to be you probably need some more help with Python. But a certification doesn't make that distinction, right? Like at that point, you go home, you learn more Python while you continue to, or I guess in this case, R, you know, you fail the coding, you go home, you learn more R, and you get redder. Yes. So a master's in stats or data science is different, right? So there's a difference between certifications, MOOCs, and different stuff. Like you can put that you have a professional certificate, whatever the wording is for this course. You know, you have a UC Berkeley extension, you took a practical data science course, put that on your resume. You know, your bachelor's degree or a master's degree in a STEM field, that's going to help. Any bachelor's degree and master's, or, you know, bachelor's degree is going to be better than not having a degree. But it is different when we start talking about, you know, these certification programs that pop up. Nobody, I know for me, when I receive an interview for a position that I was hiring for, you know, I'm going to take a look at, okay, what did you study? Was it physics? Was it engineering? Was it, you know, something that, was it accounting? You know, and you're a math person. But I've also worked with fantastic psychologists who, you know, then learned SQL and made a hop over to data science, right? But just don't get into a place where you are, you know, buying certifications because you think it's going to make a difference on your in getting a job. What makes a difference in getting a job is that you know, you've learned the skills to be able to do the job, and then you market yourself as a person who has the skills to do the job. So a lot of this becomes marketing at this point. So when we go into interviews, okay, so could I weigh in on the acceptance by employers between an MS in analytics online versus in person? So And Laura, you don't need an MS in data science or analytics, and you don't need a bachelor's degree in data science or analytics. You don't even need one in a STEM field, but it does help. You know, I'd be lying if I said that it doesn't help. Like a master's degree in stats is going to help. So if the diploma you get doesn't say online degree, then the employer won't know. That is correct. Yeah, so Francisco, there's always going to be name snobs out there. There's going to be people who went to Brown University and they're gonna like seeing on a resume that, you know, it says Cornell. You know, that part of our society still exists. That's why networking is amazing, but really there's a need for talent. So like if you write a just like, you know, if you write a really good resume that shows that you have the skills to perform the job, people are going to want to speak to you, right? So then, you know, once we have our resume and our cover letter ready to go, then we start talking about interviewing. So how do we answer these questions that these companies are going to ask us? And the most frequent questions, I suggest that you write these all down and you actually prepare to answer them, because a lot of times people don't prepare. They're like, well, you know, of course, when somebody asks me to tell them about myself, I should know myself. I should know how to answer the question. Most people don't, and get tripped up and, you know, answer something and then wish they had answered with something else. Like just write down, like, what is your pitch? This is a pitch. You are selling yourself for a job, right? So the most frequent questions are, tell me about yourself. And then we get into the behavioral questions. Tell me about a time you improved a process. Tell me about a time you explained a technical result to a non-technical audience. Tell me about a time working with a difficult stakeholder and how it was resolved, and why do you want to work at this company? And so when I was speaking with Kronos on my last job search, they actually asked me all 5 of these questions in the half-hour phone screen. It was like rapid fire, right? But these are, I've seen them time and time again. These are like the most technical, most common behavioral questions for technical roles. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, Francisco, that's definitely a personal question, depending on sort of, you know, what your life looks like, sort of what your commitment level is to going to education. I mean, if we go in, like, because to be completely honest, I went and got my master's degree in statistics during the last recession. So 2008, I went and hid in academia when all my friends were getting laid off. And I'm really glad that I did it full time, because being in a recession, that was the best place for me to be, because I had a full scholarship and stipend. And so, you know, if we're going, you know, if we go into another recession, like it's really, it's, you know, I'd have to know more to know exactly sort of what thoughts I'd give. And then even then, it's still a very, very personal question, based on, you know, exactly what's right for you, you know. Okay, so interviewing. Anything that's on your resume is obviously fair game. Prepare talking about your projects in a way that the person interviewing you will be able to understand, right? Like practice everything, write down these questions, write down your answers. The behavioral ones you're going to write down in STAR format. Okay, this isn't gonna let me do that from here. But so it's stating the situation, task, action, and result. And so I'm going to go over this in 1 minute. But yeah, remember and don't put big words unnecessarily on your resume, because if somebody asks you something complex about it, like you need to know your resume like the back of your hand. Also to call out is that I was asked to answer FizzBuzz 2 days in a row. So I was interviewing at Constant Contact, where I later accepted their offer, and Spotify. And I had those interviews, one was one day, one was the next. Both of them asked me FizzBuzz. It's a very popular coding question for the coding portion of an interview. So I would suggest that you go to this link and you sort of look at the question. The question is, count numbers 1 to 100. And when it's a multiple of 3, say fizz. When it's a multiple of 5, say buzz. When it's a multiple of 3 times 5, have it print out FizzBuzz, right? And so it goes 1, 2, fizz, 4, 5, 4, buzz, whatever. So you've got to, write a loop so that it's going to go through and print that output just like that. But so you can see the solution and more about the problem by just reading here. And that's honestly the level of the types of questions that you're going to be asked. In general, people are not trying to trick you. They're just trying to understand, do you know how to write a loop and some logic statements and maybe pull in a data set? There have been people who have asked me, much more difficult questions, but those are, to me, outliers. They're really looking, cultural fit is incredibly important. And so they're looking to see like, okay, this person said that they know R, do they feel comfortable in R? And, and would they be a good fit on our team? Like culturally, do they seem like a good person? Are they a fun person? And so, yeah, so Laura's saying, what if you know how to do it and can look up the code, but not write it from scratch on the interview? So people are expecting that. And so often they'll give you a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker, and they'll say, here's the problem, write it out. And I have answered things in pseudocode. Like, I don't know the syntax off the top of my head all the time. And people have bad days, but they'd want to be able to see that you have some idea of like, 4, 1 in 100, okay, well, and then we're going to have the next run. We're going to, if, I times 3, or if, modulo, right? If the remainder, if you divide something by 3 and the remainder is 0, then fizz. If I divide something by 5 and the remainder is 0, then buzz. And so, like pseudocode is often fine. And it really depends on the role that you're interviewing for, because if you're interviewing somewhere where they want production level code, they're going to be asking more seriously technical questions than for an analyst position, right? Where you're not typically expected to write production level code. I mean, the lines have been blurred. You definitely have to read all of the job descriptions because there is no standard naming convention across different data science titles, right? But in general, I mean, I haven't really ever taken a job where I have to write production level code. That doesn't mean that my code hasn't gotten into production. It just means that like I don't consider myself a software developer. I am a statistical programmer. you know, and things that, you know, I've gotten a lot better over the years, but I still don't apply to positions that are looking for a production level coder. Okay, and so you obviously want to be prepared with questions of your own. These are some of my favorites. This is Kristen Kerr's list of favorite interviewing questions. I really like the question, tell me about the behaviors of a person that you would consider a high performing, high potential employee, right? And I ask this at every single interview I go to, because I can't say to somebody in an interview like, hey, am I gonna have to work more than 40 hours a week? Because that looks bad. So I asked this question, and I was interviewing at DraftKings, and the VP of analytics just laughed because he knew what I was getting at. You know, and he said, well, actually a high performing, high potential employee here is working on the weekends and they are available in the evenings and all these, like, he could tell what I was getting at. But there are other companies where the standard is just 40 hours a week. And I ask them this question and they're like, you know what? The high performing employee is the person who's incredibly detail oriented, you know, numbers that are wrong, like never, ever go out. And they're a really good communicator. They're like, you know, really keep us in the loop on what they're working on email communications. Or it might be that like the high performing employee is somebody who's like not afraid to do something a little wrong, but, you know, is really innovative and thinks of methodologies in a way that the company hasn't thought of before. But those last two cases I gave are not, you know, a butt sitting in a seat for like 60 hours working. That's somebody working a 40-hour week. And these are the traits that they have. That, you know, and most of the time when they're talking about this, they're giving you a person that they have in mind. You know, they'll think of like, okay, well, who's the most high potential employee right now, and what kind of traits does that person have? So you're also getting some insight into, you know, the people on the team and sort of how they work. What software are you using? I recommend you ask that before you ever go on site, because I don't know. I mean, I feel like I asked and they said that I could use R, but then I got on site and they were like, we're a SaaS shop. And then, you know, afterwards they asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? And I was like, well, not coding in SaaS. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're aware of that in the phone screen. Is there anything else I can tell you about my skills and qualifications to let you know that I am a good fit for this job? I love this question because, again, you can't ask like, how did I do? Was that the best interview you've ever had? Right? Like, we can't ask those things. So, but, you know, this is an opportunity for me to say, hey, is there any other skill or qualification that I can tell you about to let you know that I'm a good fit? And sometimes they might say, well, I didn't hear you talk about this. And I can say, well, great. Let me give you an example of when I did X, Y, and Z. Or maybe, you know, I'm honest and I'm like, well, honestly, like I haven't had a ton of experience with that, but I'm super confident and I can learn. Or if they say, you know what, no, I feel like we got to touch on everything. You can say like, okay, good. I feel good about that. I always ask, when can I expect to hear from you? Because I am not willing to go home and wonder how long I have to wait to hear from somebody. I'm just not willing to do that. This is like a perfectly normal question. I don't know why it took me so long into my career to start asking. And then, yeah. So of course you'll want to have other questions prepared based on, you know, that are tailored to the specific company, but these are my favorites, right? And then of course, there's the data related questions, right? Because like I actually was talking to somebody on Reddit the other day and they were like, well, you know, I thought that this job was going to be an analyst job. And then I got into this job and I realized like, I don't even need to code at all. And I was like, yeah, right. Because analyst can mean a million things, right? And so honestly, nowadays when I go in and I'm talking to somebody, I'm going to ask about their data. Do you have a data warehouse? How clean is it? What's, is the schema something that's like easily navigatable? Are all the data sources hooked up? Can I go from like the first time somebody ever visits the site through like 10 years of their history? Would I be able to find that like whole customer journey? Are all the data sources hooked up so that I can do that? Do the stakeholders in the organization, so like does the marketing team, do they have dashboards already? Because if they don't have dashboards, I'm probably going to have to create dashboards, right? And it's just where my head goes. I ask about the relationship with the stakeholders. If we run hypothesis tests, who has the decision rights on the test design? Like, of course, people can make strategic decisions, but I don't want to be somewhere where marketers are making the decisions on how to design the tests, because a lot of times they will design tests that aren't readable because they're not well versed in hypothesis testing, right? And I wouldn't word it exactly like that, but like in a diplomatic way, I want to understand, like, hey, tell me, what the relationship looks like between marketing and data science. And like, when we make recommendations, like, are we seen as a thought partner? Do they, take our recommendations into consideration, or are they just sort of like doing whatever they want? And then, yeah, data governance. If two people were to do the same analysis, is there a chance we'd get two different results? Or, are we all sort of using the same fields to calculate the same metrics, and things are streamlined and there's good documentation? I ask about all these things. Like, if I'm taking a data job, and it's not that any of this is good or bad, right? Like, this isn't good or bad. This is just the state of their data, but it gives me the full picture of, if I take a job somewhere and there are no self-service dashboards, I can assume I might be creating some dashboards, and there are years of my life where I was creating dashboards, and it was great. It's a wonderful skill to have, super fantastic to put on your resume. I'm probably not looking to build dashboards anymore, right? But so, taking all those things into consideration about what the state of their data looks like, and then, you're talking to the team and you want to get a feel for how you think you'd fit culturally with these people. Do you want to actually spend 40 hours a week with these people? Because that's a lot of time. And weigh all these things together when you're thinking about your offers. Sorry, I'm like not caught up on all the amazing chat that's happening in the chat. Here's some resources I wrote for resume and interviewing. Of course, building a community is a big deal. Now that I own my own business, like, all the work that I have comes through networking and getting to know other people in the field. LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of my time. Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit also have pretty, a lot of data people on there that are passionate about data. Twitter especially has like a lot of really passionate R users, R ladies. And so there's also different forums, groups like R ladies who talk a lot on Twitter, and physical meetups. I don't go to a ton of like regular meetups because I have 2 young children. I do go to a couple conferences throughout the year. Like, I typically go to ODSC East. So that's Open Data Science Conference in Boston. It's supposed to be next month. It'll probably be canceled. I still plan on going to DSGO this year. So that'll be in LA in October. I was going to go to Predictive Analytics World in Las Vegas in June. I was just talking with them yesterday because I'm supposed to be speaking at DSGO and at Predictive Analytics World. But it looks like PAW might be moving to a virtual conference right now. Okay. Self-learning approaches, of course, you know that there's like plenty of online courses. A lot of them are free. So this is, links to some of the data science courses that people in the community have said they really liked. So this is just a list of different Coursera and Udemy courses that people on LinkedIn were saying that they liked. Another self-learning approach is like, if you already have a job at a company and they have a database, you can ask to get access to SQL and start querying the data and, start to learn there. Like, that's a fantastic learning on the job approach. And then, so if you have not yet learned SQL, I highly recommend you to go through the SQL material. There's obviously a ton of stuff that you could know, that you could learn. But I think more importantly, I really don't want you to get in the trap of not applying. Like, if your goal is to get a job in data science, then you should be refining your resume, refining your cover letter, looking for jobs and applying and getting feedback from the market. Because they're gonna let you know why, or you can ask them why you weren't offered the job. And when they give you some of that insight, you can use that to iterate and make your marketing of yourself better to hopefully land a job. Like, if that's your goal, right? If your goal is just to learn data science, well, you can, of course, just continue to take courses and courses and courses and courses, right? But at some point, there's a chance you'll never feel ready. Just start applying, right? If the goal is to get a new job in data, be applying to jobs in data, right? So thank you. This is the end of Practical Data Science. Danielle and I have absolutely loved being part of this course with you. Danielle, I'd love for you to hop on and sort of run me through what was happening in the chat, what I missed, if there's anything else that we can talk about.
Yeah, I'm saving the chat right now, so I will post it on the discussion board for anyone who's interested. There's been a lot of side conversations happening around.
I know, and I can't keep up with them. And I feel left
out. There's been lots of talk around, how can you take what you've learned in this course and apply it as more of like a project manager of a data science team, how to approach people about different contracts, how to get your name out there. There's some recent conversation about whether you can contract government positions, like to do short-term quantitative contracts. And I was saying in Canada, absolutely, that's what I do. I can't speak to the US. I'm not sure. And certainly, yeah, I'll post this chat to the discussion board, and then
the US.
If you want to add anything to it, because I know a lot of what I'm saying is very much from one perspective, and you have a very different perspective, so you might add.
And I think, because I wrote this from the perspective of, trying to get regular employment as a position. I did not write it from the perspective of freelancing or, working on contracts, which is something that I've absolutely, I mean, I enjoy negotiating contracts. And honestly, for me, I don't go after contracts. I post things on LinkedIn that are data science related. I've built up like 60,000 followers. And then just yesterday, because I changed my tagline to say machine learning storytelling. And so just yesterday, I had someone come in my my DMs and say, oh my God, I saw that, it caught my eye. And, my sales team is having difficulty pitching to CTOs and, other people, and like talking about this AI product that we have. And they come to me and then I'm like, oh, I'd love to hear more about your business and what you're doing. And that's my wheelhouse. I help people, talk about technical data science topics in a way that's like really fun and engaging. And I'm sure we can come up with some stories for you. So I'm waiting to hear back from her, but that's sort of how I run my business.
I definitely recommend if you, I mean, obviously a lot of things will be online right now, but if you do have the opportunity to attend meetups, digitally or in person or virtually or in person, don't be afraid to go attend meetups that are totally outside of your wheelhouse. It's something I do all the time. It's how I end up getting different contracts. So for example, there was recently a meetup at a coffee shop for people in the area who design video games. And I was like, well, I like video games and I like code. So let's go talk to people. And while I was there, met someone who is currently working on a virtual reality project for aquaculture, so that people who are raising fish in fish farms can actually use virtual reality to see how the fish are going to behave in different situations. And I was like, wait, that's actually really similar to stuff that I do. So there's overlap that you probably don't expect when you start talking to people who use similar tools or even different tools for what might appear to be wildly different projects. You can end up getting your foot in the door and saying, hey, I can actually help you with this. Steven's asking, how do you plant a fish? In very large tanks. But yeah, I feel like that's a tail up or tail down. Oh, it depends. It depends on the species, I guess. But yeah, I'd say that's my advice. Talk to everybody. Shameless self-promotion.
Shameless self-promotion. Just get comfortable with it now. Just, oh man, there's a couple things I wish I had learned earlier in my career. One was getting comfortable with shameless self-promotion, because you'd watch people climb up the ranks really fast. And I'd be like, wow, that person's just really good at marketing themselves, right? And crap, I had a second thing and I feel like I already forgot it. Oh, you know what I didn't realize until way too late? There's professional development budget available a lot of times in organizations, right? And so you don't ask for it, but like, and a lot of you guys are probably here on professional development budget regardless, but just, yeah, I didn't take any online courses early in my career, and I wish I had known about it. I wish I had known that I could say, hey, boss, would you be willing to pay for this course or to send me to this conference? Or, yeah, basically, I just wish I had known earlier. And so now, the way that I approach that, I mean, not now, because like I've been working for myself now for a little over a year. But when I was in corporate, at the end of my career, I'd start a new job and I'd be like, hey, and what's the professional development budget look like? And like, what might I be able to apply that towards? Because it's like very normal for people to have a professional development budget and have guidelines around what it can be used for. And if you don't ask, you might be missing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a question.
So Francisco, they will actually mail you the certificate.
And Laura, I believe the last day is March 30th, is what I have heard. The last day for accessing Vocarium assignments and all that kind of stuff, March 30th. So I guess I should say I will still have office hours next week, I believe. I will double check. I'm pretty sure that's on the schedule. Just because technically yesterday's office hours were for week 11. So today is like the first day of week 12. So I'll be around on Monday if anyone wants to chat. And the recordings are going to be available for a year. Is that right, Kristen? I'm not sure about the
program support. Could you answer that?
No, I can send a message and ask about that, and then let you know if that's not the case.
Okay, awesome. Are there any other questions?
Okay, yeah, Steve was saying that the ticket system was being problematic yesterday, so I'm going to look into that this afternoon. There's a comment or question for Kristen there. I don't know if it's specific enough that you want to answer later on, or
read it all. Yeah, so I mean, you can totally add data services, right? Like you just really nail down specifically what type of data service it is that you offer, and you put up a sales page on your website and you promote it and you see if anyone's interested, you know.
One thing, and sorry, I feel like we're like wrapping up and I'm like, oh yeah, I should share this. One thing you should consider doing is, especially if you don't have a lot of experience and you're like, all right, I need to figure out how to market myself, how to get more skills, how to practice, you know, choose data sets, for example, that you think are interesting, build Shiny apps, do analyses, do your blog posts, make sure that your GitHub account is, you know, your repositories are nice and neat, for example. They all have a README or a description of what's in them. And what that helps with is that if you run into a situation where you say, hey, you know, talking to this person from this company and they're talking about how nice it would be to have a dashboard or a Shiny app, you can say, hey, I've actually done that before, and here's a link. You can go look on my GitHub. Here's how it all works. Here's, you know, immediate proof that I know how to do this, and maybe you should consider hiring me to do this for you. So it's nice to just immediately have something to refer them to.
So. Hi, and Laura, I see you asking about meeting about SQL. Yes, we can absolutely do that. Would you mind if we, here, I'm just going to give you my email address. Just email me and we will set something up. Hopefully for next week, because this week is a lot of adjustment with my 2 kids at home, trying to keep everything moving. Yeah, no, Laura, I'm looking forward to it. That'll be great.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Right. Awesome, everyone. Well, thank you so much. We've loved being with you for the last 12 weeks. And like Danielle said, she's still available for office hours on Monday, she thinks. Yep. And yeah, no, it was really fantastic getting to know you guys and talking about data science with you. And I wish you all the best.
Yeah, I hope our paths cross again. I will add my email address to the chat. Okay.
All righty. Bye, everyone.
Bye.